Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to take you through a nice, easy cheat code basing scheme for your army. So as you can see, I'm literally just going to pop the bases onto some little plastic shot glasses to make it easy and try and not get my hands covered in pigment. So I've got a little tub of sand and rock. This probably needs replenishing, to be honest. This little tub here is just my spare bits of cork from previous ones. Any offcuts and rips I just chuck in this tub, as they come in handy for little stones and adding interest to bigger bases. The final thing I've got there is just an old sheet of cork boarding that I'm going to use for PVA glue later on. So this is super simple, super quick, rough and ready, but looks great on your army. So first thing I'm going to do here is literally just size up a piece of cork for the base. This is quite thick. I prefer a slightly thicker cork sheeting. It sits nice so you don't get any curls or bends on it. Again, you can break this up and add 2 big pieces on each base or a lot of little pieces. Just make sure you size it out as to where your miniature is going to stand. So as you can see, I'm literally going to cover the back of the cork with super glue. Give it a rub round on the base first to try and distribute it evenly and give it a good press down. Literally as easy as that, and then we're just going to leave it to dry. Once the super glue has fully dried, this is mainly so we don't destroy the brush too much, we are going to jump in with some PVA glue. So this is an old wrecked painting brush anyway, to be honest, and I'm literally just going to mix cheap PVA glue that I got from a supermarket with water, and I'm going to add it onto all the areas that aren't touched by the cork. I'm also going to add a couple of little patches on top of the cork. Again, just size this out to make sure it's not where your miniature is going to stand, because trying to super glue the model onto the sand is going to be a bit of hard work. Next step, just grab your tub of sand, rocks, whatever you use, and we're going to literally just dip it in there, get really good coverage on all that PVA glue. You can squash it down and then go again just to make sure you get a really good solid amount on there. Next step is literally just to clean it off the rim of the base itself so it doesn't dry with loads of texture. Okay, so once we're happy, we've pressed it down, we're just going to add another layer of PVA glue. This time just water it down as thin as you can so it like runs all over the surface. We don't really want to disturb that sand if we don't need to, so we're literally just making this as watery as we can. Just going to dab it all over the base, so this will help seal the sand in. I'm sure you've had it before where you've done bases with sand doing a G-dub type scheme. As you start dry brushing, bits are peeling off, bits are falling off, your bristles are getting covered in full of sand. So yeah, we do this little extra step. It takes a little bit longer because we have to let it dry, but this is going to seal everything in so it's nice and neat when we come to the painting process. Okay, just before you're going to leave your bases to dry, just run your finger around the edge to make sure we clear the sand off the rim. This will give us a nice smooth surface for painting later, and will stop you having to scrape it off with a knife when it's rock hard on the rim. Okay, so as you can see, we've jumped to a slightly larger base. I'm going to jump back and forward with about 3 bases just to speed things up as some are drying and we can move on quicker with the video. So next thing, I've grabbed my Rhinox hide. The base has been primed in black and I'm just going to give it a good covering of Rhinox hide. This is about as technical as it gets painting wise, and then we're going to jump in with our pigments. So I have given you the list of pigments I've used here. Again, you could literally just order a couple and make it work. Just go with a darker tone and then a brighter tone to give it a little bit more interest. Here I've started with the brown iron oxide Vallejo pigment. So I'm literally just going to smash this on. There's nothing technical to it. Just going to get a really good heavy covering on there, and then I'm going to add some water and literally just dampen this all down. Pigments you can use dry and just put them on to finish a model, but I want to seal this in as the base coat. And the reason I'm using this rather than paint is it's nice and easy, and also I like the finish. It gives you a really matte, dusty, fluffy surface of Mars type base. So again, just switching bases due to the drying processes. So next up I've gone with Burnt Umber from Vallejo Pigments, and I'm just going to put this down in the shadow recessy areas of the base. There's nothing too technical, honestly. I'm literally just picking out what I think is going to look good and give some shadow when the model is on the base, and just to break up the tone of that base orange we've got there. So literally just play around with this and put it into place. So I've now gone with my brightest colour, which is dark red ochre, again Vallejo pigment. So like I say, you could do this with just a dark and a light and it would give you points of interest. I've got a load of pigments in the studio, so we're just going to use a little bit more, as it will give a little bit more interest to the base. But here I'm going to pick out the brightest, highest, most raised areas of the base, and the areas that once the model is stood in the middle would catch more light in theory. But again, nothing technical to this. You can smash it anywhere, just give it a good mix. This isn't going to be dampened into place, so make sure you really work it into the surface, and then you can just blow the excess away to make sure there's not too much powder sitting on the base itself. So you could obviously leave the base there, but this is about as technical as it's going to get for the actual painting elements. I've got some Vallejo orange brown here. Again, just an old rough brush, and I'm going to literally just dry brush. So work the paint into your kitchen roll or something, take most of it off the brush, and then I'm just going to run over the base, catching all the gravel that looks interesting. Mainly I'm trying to catch all the edges of the different layers of the corkboard for the rock, because this will give a nice bit of interest as we go as well. Final stage for painting the actual base there is, I use Vallejo 950 black, but any black paint that you like to use, or whether you go for a different colour for painting the rims, thin it down with a little bit of water on your palette, and then we're just going to take our time, work our way around the edge of the base. We're not really trying to achieve full coverage in one coat here, because you're going to create texture, or you're going to keep moving the paint around and it's going to go grainy. So nice and thinned with water. Do one coat, let it dry, do a second coat, let it dry, and it should look great. So as you can see there, I've jumped from a few different bases, but it's the same process as we go, just to show you how it looks on the bigger base. This is for the Dreadnought itself. So now we've got a little optional extra part if you want to do this to add a little bit of point of interest to your bases. I've just clipped off some old skulls that I had on a sprue and give them a quick clean up. Not even priming these, I'm just going to jump on with some thinned down Zandri dust and give them a couple of quick thin coats. Again, paint watered down, and we're just going to work it on and let it dry each time. Next I'm going to come in with Agrax Earthshade and just give them a nice layer of coverage. Because this is just a basing element, I'm not going to go crazy with smooth blends on the skulls like I might if it was on the armour of a Space Marine captain. It's just going to be rough and ready. Okay, so once my Agrax Earthshade's dried, I'm just going to come back in with Zandri dust, and I'm just going to basically repaint the skull except for the deepest recesses. You don't really need to be neat here, and you could absolutely get away with just dry brushing these colours on. To be honest, that's mainly what I'm doing for the top and the sort of rounder shapes of the skull. I'm just going to use the point of the brush around the eyes and nose and mouth to make sure we can keep those shadows and that contrast in place. Okay, so now we are just going to repeat the process, but moving on to our Ashapti bone. So this is just going to be the top and front of the skull itself that will catch the most light. We're trying to leave some of that Xandri dust layer showing as a little bit of a transition from the shadows. But again, you could just dry brush this onto the front and it would be effective. Just a point of note as well, you could easily stick these skulls to the base while you were building the cork board. I kind of decided to add them last minute, so that's why I've got them here and I'm painting them separately. Plus it means all the detail of the eyes won't be clagged up with a load of pigment, so it means they are going to stand out, which is what I'm looking for on the base. Okay, and final step, we're going to just repeat the same process using our Vallejo ivory. Again, really just work at the focal point of where the light is going to hit, and the skulls, even though we've done these really quickly, will look effective on the base. As you can see, we have them all finished there. Nice and easy, rough and ready to stick onto our models. Now all that's left to do is to stick these on the base wherever we think they're going to look cool. So as you can see, we've added some to the Dreadnought and the Terminator squad. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.